finally arrive in Nice. It's stage 7 of the Paris-Nice race, 129.5 kilometers today, running out of this southern French Mediterranean playground up into the hills and back down again. Yesterday, well, after 33 kilometers, a break of 6 superstar riders, you could say, went away, including 4 in the top 15, and David Rebellin had no choice but to let them go. He didn't chase them back. He had Sylvain Chavanel in here, Levi Leipheimer, Tom Danielson and Thomas Voeckler, all within striking distance. Only 2 men left for David Rebellin to help chase down. Matthias Russ on the front here and Bernhard Kohl, the Austrian road race champion. Both of them young riders, and Rebellin under the cosh. And then the attacks started coming out of the breakaway itself. Sylvain Chavanel going for glory, not just for the stage win, but of course to take the leader's jersey. Behind, Rebellin looked as though he was cooked because his 2 teammates went backwards, and Alberto Contador, just 6 seconds down on the overall classification, leapt out from the peloton, taking 2 riders from Castapin with him, both in striking distance of the top. David Lopez was one of them, and Luis Sanchez was the other. Sanchez, a very good time trialist. Soon they joined up with Chavanel on the run down into the finishing can yesterday. Luis Sanchez went on the attack. Now, if they'd have stayed together, maybe Contador would have not been wearing the white today. He'd have been wearing the yellow, but it looked like he'd hit the wall, and Luis Sanchez going for glory, taking the stage yesterday and bringing himself right up in the overall standings, leapfrogging everybody from about 18th position into 3rd. He's now just 16 seconds off the lead. First of all, I've got to say thanks to my team because they asked me to Paris-Nice in the first place. We came here just to take part in this race, and in the stage in Mende, the team helped me a lot. I was in the same shape as I was today, so I lost a little bit of time, but the team was confident that they could bring me back. I had all the confidence of my teammates and staff. Well, he took a wonderful victory yesterday, but how different it could have been if he'd kept Contador with him. There are now 15 riders with less than a minute in the standings, and this man, Alberto Contador, is the closest, just 6 seconds down on the overall classification. That's still being held by David Rebellin. Remember, in Mende, that is what happened. Alberto Contador took the victory, but Rebellin had to stay with him. He's had a long fight. The 35-year-old is now all by himself. Will he find enough friends today? Will he have a strong enough team? Well, the answer to the second question is probably no, but will he find enough friends to gang up against Discovery Channel? 6 seconds, Alberto Contador lies behind him. Luis Sanchez is at 16 after yesterday's victory. Then Tadej Valjevec slips 1 to 23 seconds. Pelozzotti now wearing the green points jersey as Daniele Bonatti is withdrawn, unsurprisingly, probably getting ready for Milan San Remo. Well, at the moment there are 4 men just ahead of the peloton. Marcus Burkhardt is the man in the back here who's launched an attack off the front. It was a story of an early break who went away 11 riders, 8 originally and then 11, and those included Sylvain Chavanel and Thomas Voeckler. Voeckler, by the way, took an absolute packet yesterday and came in 6 minutes and 8 seconds down on the general classification. So he was allowed to go away from that breakaway group and pulled out a lead. About 1 minute 40 was the most he ever had, and it got dragged back again gradually as he faded, with Discovery Channel riding all the time on the front for Alberto Contador, playing into the hands of David Rebellin, of course, but they've really put the hammer down where they are now. They're coming down from the descent of La Turbie, and they've been riding very strong. Everybody on the front. This is the second attack of the day to go away. And Peter Wiening was the man trying to come out of the peloton across to it. But Marcus Burkhardt from T-Mobile was the guy who got away first. There we are, 22 seconds they have. We're not quite sure, we haven't confirmation about who has come into this group yet. We were on our introduction. One of the men, I think the man at the back there, we were talking to this morning actually, Maxime Montfort of Cofidis, is one of those riders. I think the frame of the Caisse de Pain rider looks like Francisco Perez, and the little Crédit Agricole rider, to me, looks a bit like Bocharov, but we'll get some confirmation on that in a minute. Bocharov, a man with less tactical sense than most riders, perhaps, but always up for a challenge if he can when he's on a good day. I'm always surprised with the talent he has. He's never won anything. That probably reflects on his tactical sense, but there we are. Let's just run very briefly through the parcours today before we welcome Sean Kelly into the conversation. 4 climbs today, 3 first category climbs and 1 second category climb. The Côte du Doronou is the first climb after 25.5 kilometers, and that was taken by Sylvain Chavanel ahead of Sandy Cassar, Sergio Polino, Roman Kreuziger and Dmitry Fofanov. Then the first category, Col de la Porte, which goes up to which is at 52 kilometers, goes to over 1,000 meters in height, and Faulkner was away by that time. Danielson, Leipheimer, Popovic, Contador in that order after him. Then Rebellin shows you what the riding was like by Discovery Channel. Then the Col de la Turbie, which we've just been over. Tom Danielson, Levi Leipheimer, Alberto Contador, Yaroslav Popovic, and then Luis Sanchez, Rodriguez and Cadel Evans. It's been a story of Discovery riding on the front all day today. Less and less, Sean, they have friends in this group, but it's playing into the hands of Rebellin at the moment.
Well, it certainly is for the moment, but Discovery Channel are preparing the attack of Contador, certainly. You know, they've been making a very strong pace on this climb up La Turbie, and it's really, you know, shed a lot of riders out. And earlier on the day, in the first call of the day, the Col de Porte, and before that there was a lot of riders blowing out the rear door. So a lot of tired riders, but the speed is definitely high, and for the last day in the race it's been an exceptionally difficult day once again, and Discovery Channel are just trying to make it difficult here for everybody, and I think we're going to see real action in the final climb of Col d'Aise from Contador, because he has got to go early on the Col d'Aise, I think, to really put Rebellin in trouble. And the descent also was a big descent, and not a very technical one, so you know, you could get pulled back if you get over the top 15-20 seconds. You could be still pulled back on the descent into Nice here.
It's an interesting situation at the moment. 2 of the guys in this second of the breaks of the day, the one that's just got 35 seconds now, Alexander Bocharov and Maxime Montfort, within about 1:30 of the leader's jersey at the moment. So Discovery Channel being pushed again to race hard on the front. I'm sure that Cofidis will be pleased about that. Sylvain Chavanel once again taking the first bonus sprint of the day. Did so yesterday at Levin after just 15 kilometers. Takes 3 points, but more importantly takes another 3 seconds. Now that has taken him from 11th overall at 43 seconds up to 8th place, ahead of David Miller. He now comes in with 41 seconds overall, so smart little move by Chavanel, getting an extra 3 seconds off his time. Shows how closely they are all locked together. One Discovery Channel rider no longer in the group, probably unsurprisingly, Matt White, who had that tumble yesterday. We had a quick word with him on the start line. He didn't look in too bad shape, but he did say, Sean, that he didn't have to do much today.
Well, yes, that's what he's hoping, I think.
I think so.
But he came out yesterday well out of it, considering on that crash, like they were going very fast, and it could have been much more serious. And as he said, you know, he touched off a rider and then had to go for the brake quite heavy, as we kind of suspected yesterday, and just slided off. But the both of them came out of it quite well. The Sonia Duval rider as well got back on his bike and back on the road. So you know, it was a lucky escape, I suppose you could call it, for the 2 of them. But you know, it's interesting now at the moment, and with these 4 riders out in front, as we see the Discovery Channel, what do? Do they keep on riding really strong, or they leave it get away and, you know, pull a gap out? Because when we see Contador going in the attack, which we certainly will on the final climb, it's always good to have a group up there, because if you can get across that group, if they have, you know, 40 or 50 seconds on the final climb, well, then there's always riders who are riding for the stage victory, and, you know, it's a bit of a carrot out there when he's come across to them. So it's a difficult situation. What tactic do you work? Do you really ride hard and just keep everything together and you know, play everything for the Col d'Aise?
There is Sylvain Chavanel having a quick chat with Amel Moynat at the back, planning their strategy. I'm sure something's going to happen on the Col d'Aise with Chavanel. He's been in real fighting spirits this week. Interesting, letting his teammate, or pushing his teammate away in the break. They always want to come get somebody in the break to force the other teams, in this case Discovery, to do the work. Best placed man in the break at the moment, that man in the back in the Crédit Agricole kit, Alexander Bocharov, just a shade outside a minute on the overall. That's a little bit dangerous as well, Sean.
Yes, it's certainly dangerous, but I don't think the Discovery channels are really worried about that. The big worry is, can Contador take enough time and be strong enough to ride away from Rebellin. Yesterday we see on the Tanneron he was very, very strong, Contador. He just blitzed up that climb, and certainly Rebellin wasn't there to follow because he was there and he could see him going away, but he just wasn't able to respond because the pace was too high. And the question is, will that be the case today? Rebellin will have to stay with Contador. He cannot allow him to get away, because the risk yesterday we see it was such much of a touch and go situation. You cannot allow that happen today again, because he was looking at the finish yesterday. There was other teams who wanted to ride on the finish into Cannes.
Just a quick rundown of the GC then. David Rebellin, 6 seconds back is Alberto Contador, then Luis Sanchez, 16 seconds down now on the overall. Tadej Valjevec at 23, then Franco Pelazzotti just at 31, Sebastian Joly at 32, Evans at 35, then now Chavanel at 41, and then Miller. Live pictures here. This is the final stage of 2007 Paris-Nice. My voice has just about held on to the very end. Wish I could have got rid of this cold, but I'm sure there's a lot of bike riders in this peloton feeling a lot worse than I am. These four guys, though, seem to be feeling okay at the moment. Marcus Burkhardt from T-Mobile. This is only the second time we've seen anybody in a break. Bert Grapch was the only other rider from T-Mobile to be in a break. Maxime Montfort, you can see second in line there from Cofidis in the red and white. Then Alexander Bocharov, the Russian riding for Crédit Agricole, and then behind is Perez, Francisco Perez of the Caisse d'Epargne squad, another big, tall, lanky Spaniard. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the other teams start coming towards the front to tee things up for the Col d'Aise, which you can see on the profile there is not so far away now. The sprint coming up at the moment. Remember, there are 3 seconds, 2 seconds and 1 second on offer here as they come into the sprint. 25k it says to go to the finish there, and it's not that far now, just this Col d'Aise to detonate things. Will Discovery keep riding hard on the front? That is the question. Bocharov the most to gain from taking the sprint here. He lies at 1 minute and 5 seconds. He could move himself up into the top, one place above Joaquim Rodriguez if he gets 3 seconds. Still some way off the top 15. Kreuziger in 15th spot at 54 seconds so far. Well, they'll finish today on the Promenade des Anglais, and I guess the question is, Sean, for me, even if Contador has the strength to attack really hard on the Col d'Aise, will he die again as he did? It's a similar finish today in many ways, because you've got a long flat run in towards the finish. Is he going to have enough strength? Has he got the ability to stay away hard in time trialing mode at the end?
Well, he's definitely got to give it a try, because he's in a position not every year he's going to be in that one at 6 seconds off the general classroom to take the jersey. And situation Rebellin, looking a little bit under pressure yesterday on the final climb, as we see Montfort having a problem getting onto the small ring. He's still stuck on the big one, actually. There he has it, the small one at the moment. So it's going to be certainly an opportunity. It's an opportunity just standing there for Contador, and it's the question, can he really pull the advantage, and will Rebellin be able to react? That is the big question on this final climb. And of course the other riders as well, when Contador starts attacking, the like of Cadel Evans, the good climbers, Pelazzotti for example, Luis Sanchez is very impressive yesterday in the final. Those riders are also going to have a go, because first of all the stage victory is there, and they could move a little bit in the general classement as well if the riders ahead of them are in trouble. So we see here at the the moment like it's just a sprint at the bottom of the climb.
Give us a quick rundown on this climb. The famous finish of Paris-Nice pretty much always keeps in cold days, and here you've had great victories where you've springboarded yourself ahead of your rivals, or leapfrogged them, or just stamped your authority on the race on this particular hill. Give us a run through. What is it like to ride?
Well, it's a difficult climb in the beginning. When you start the climb, it's the steep part as we see here, and it's definitely, you know, one where you need to get settled into a bit, and a difficult one because it kicks up immediately, very steep gradient, and that is the problem. As we see a lot of riders having problems here already, just, you know, getting settled in is always difficult. And when you're going at a rate, as we see this the main bunch here, the front part of the main bunch going along, well, you know, it's big suffering time.
About 2.5k of climbing. You did an article recently, didn't you, for one of the big magazines, Cycle Sport, where you went through it bit by bit, and about 2.5k, you said at the start, is really difficult, and then it sort of slackens off a weeny bit and then kicks up with about 4 to go at the end, so it's not easy at all, this.
No, it's certainly not, and we're certainly in a difficult part now, as we see a lot of riders having major difficulties to follow here. And definitely, like, when you attack it at this rate, because we did see up front of the group, like, they were just really sprinting up it, and that's when, you know, it really starts to suffer. We see a lot of good riders here having problems, you know, following the pace being set by the front of this main group.
You know, the Discovery Channel doing exactly what we've seen them do for many years, just riding people off the wheel. Bernard Cole, one of only 2 men who really had a chance of helping David Rebellin from the Gerolsteiners, has gone straight out the back. We saw a lot of big riders. Peter Wiening, we've gone back. It's a pretty good climber himself, remember. Is Wiening. There's Pache Villa suffering. The Lamprey rider hasn't been in the best of form. Oh, there's an attack coming out. It must be Chavanel going, because he fought his way, went down to the back, had a word with a few people. Maybe they're playing the old 1-2, but I would guess this is Chavanel going out of the front. Or is this Montfort from the breakaway? My apologies. Here we are back at the main group. And Popovic right on the front now with Contador. They've ridden everybody else off the wheel. The question is, where is the yellow jersey of David Rebellin? Marcus Burkhardt trying to respond and has done so. Maxime Montfort being eaten up. Now Jerome Pinot being distanced. Pinot, who's a good lying well up in the overall, 42 seconds down in 10th spot. And one of the Discovery Channel riders coming back towards him at the moment. A little bit like Leipheimer in that shot. Well, my apologies if the voice starts to crack up. I've had a stinker of a cold all week. Trying to keep it under wraps. Here goes Contador. And Rebellin looking around him to see who's going to go after Contador. He's going to have to go by himself if nobody's going to chase it down. Just that moment of hesitation, Sean.
Yes, it certainly is the moment, and you know, we can see he's looking at Contador just going away, but just waiting and hoping that somebody will take up the chase. And I think once again Rebellin, you know, you can see that he's under pressure, because he would try and mark him there and try and get in his wheel and follow him for a while, but he just didn't even try. So I think definitely, you know, it's going to be difficult for Rebellin as well here to limit the losses and to not allow Contador to take too much time.
Well, you can see Bocharov on the left-hand side just being squeezed. Popovic leans over, gets out of the way. It's Cadel Evans who's out of the saddle, in fact, thinking, can I go with him? And he can't. He sits straight back down again. Rebellin looks across to see if Luis Sanchez is going to do something, and Contador's gone away by himself. Only 6 seconds down. Yesterday almost got the flick, really, by the Case de Pan riders. If he'd have stayed with them, he could have been in yellow today. Who knows? Maybe they didn't want it. Maybe they wanted the pressure on somebody else. But Luis Sanchez was the guy who took that jersey yesterday. One rider coming across. Looks a bit like a Predictor Lotto jersey. Right the way down the road, though. Second overall this morning, Alberto Contador. Oh, real pressure behind. Levi Leipheimer, having done his job, I think, is just sitting in there at the moment. Leipheimer, a man who has suffered yesterday because he had a rear wheel problem, and that really stuck him out of the back, and he lost a whole packet of time. So he'll be working just for Contador today. So that is Sébastien Joly pushing hard, trying to stay up in there. Joly lying at 32 seconds, 6th overall. And just in front of him, Andy Schleck, I think. Frank Schleck. Contador, though. A very concerted attack indeed. It had to come today, and they've just ridden everybody off the wheel, destroyed everybody at the start. And this is David Lopez Garcia trying to bridge that gap across, and that is in fact the man who came out from the front. He's got his head down, trying to get across to Contador. Lopez Garcia at 43 seconds. Well, there's a number of good riders behind, but the gap is going out, is going out, is going out. David Rebellin, Cadel Evans, Chris Horner was in there as well. Luis Sanchez was in there. Kolobnev was caught, and he's sticking in there. Chavanel must have gone across. Maxime Montfort was caught, and I think has slipped back into that group. That's really, really churning the pedals around now, Contador. Rebellin having to ride on the front, and now attacks coming in from Kestepan.
Lopez Garcia, and we see Rebellin here just, riding on the front and making a pace, but certainly a long ways off the pace that we see Contador going, and he's definitely under pressure here. We see a lot of riders attacking, and he's not going with anybody, and that tells you immediately he's on the limit.
He may well be on the limit, but how much has this man got in the tank after he got a little bit, we suspect, of the hunger knock yesterday as he came down the other side of the Tanner on the last climb of the day and was trying to time trial his way back. Chucks away that bidon, and this is the group behind. You can see at the back there, Chris Horner wearing the number 73 jersey, looking across now. I think that is Sanchez just behind. And Joaquim Rodriguez is in here as well. Oh, another attack going in at the front. Kestepan trying to put the pressure down. Samuel Sanchez is the guy in the orange jersey. This is another attack from the man who gave it everything yesterday. This then is what could be a very significant attack indeed. Luis Sanchez showing how strong he was yesterday. And Valjevets slowly trying to close the gap. Cadel Evans is the Predictor Lotto rider up towards the front, and Rebellin has got about 3 bike lengths back to him. He's trying to keep calm, Sean, but he's definitely under pressure.
Well, it looks very much so, because when we see the accelerations of the riders in the front and they going on the attack, he's definitely having troubles following. He's leaving 2 or 3 bike lengths open up, but it's not the time to be doing that, because as we see up front here, it's all happening, and Contador is definitely working at 100% and pulling seconds out all the time. So I don't think Rebellin is in the best of shape, because if he was, he would be reacting much more if the riders were going in the attack.
Tadej Valjevets, the rider from Lampre, giving a right old dig. He's a real tough guy, the Slovenian. Look out for the green jersey in this group as well. It was slipping back. Pelazzotti was trying to stay up there as well. Pelazzotti wearing the green points jersey, as Daniele Banati has left the race now with just a day to go, along with Fabio Baldato as well. They'll be preparing for Milan-San Remo. We've been bringing you that live on Eurosport. David Duffield doing that. We're bringing you all the classics, in fact. Roubaix, Flanders. And there he is on the front now. No, he's not going to do any more. He says, no, unless somebody comes through, I'm not going to do it. Chris Horner now riding in the front. He has that distinctive, slightly sideways hang at the head. In fact, Cadel Evans is the same. The two of them have a hanging head style, not quite Francisco Mancebo style. Interestingly, he's riding for Relax Gam now. Oh, Contador giving it everything. Here's Valjevets. And Valjevets tacking onto the back of David Lopez Garcia. And Valjevets a very, very tough rider indeed. He took the mountains classification in the 2004 Giro d'Italia and is a terrifically tough guy. He did that deliberately when they went into Slovenia. Samuel Sanchez right at the back there. And then Luis Sanchez, and you can also see Joaquin Rodriguez in there. Case Japan in a very strong position, Sean. They've got 3 good climbers in this group, or 2 in this group and 1 away.
Yes, well, they certainly are in a very good position, and we see that yesterday in the final how strong they were, and they've got to do something about it now, and we see there at the moment this 2 chasers after Contador, and the time gap coming back 31 seconds back to Rebellin, the yellow jersey holder, and the rest Cavill Evans and a number of other riders. So it's been interesting now if he can, Contador, can he keep this going? And that is the question. We see him yesterday on the Tanner run, very spectacular as well on the climb, and put a lot of time into the group of Rebellin, but actually, in the end also pay the price. Today is a little bit different situation. Of course, it's quite a lot of downhill, and the last flat run into the finish is very, very short. As yesterday we had about 11 kilometers, so along the seafront it was a more difficult one for a rider or 2 or 3 riders out on their own.
Difficult situation for Alberto Contador. He's got to make up as much time as he possibly can here. There may be some riders behind him. I'm thinking most notably of Samuel Sanchez, that is, who are very good descenders, and will try and drag back any gap. And then when he gets to the bottom, as Sean said, there's a long section. No wind today along the Promenade des Anglais, which is good for them. We're into this second kick in the hill now, the last 4K going up towards the top, and Valjevets and David Lopez Garcia in sights of these guys behind. Let's just run through them. You can see Horner at the front, then there's he's doing a sterling job at the moment trying to get back to these 2 up ahead. Then there's Rebellin, then Cadel Evans also in that group. Luis Sanchez, who we saw win yesterday and bring himself up into 3rd place. Franco Pelazzotti wearing the green jersey, just shows what a great all-round rider Pelazzotti is. And also Joaquim Rodriguez is in there as well for Case Japan. So they've got a big group. Frank Schleck is the CSC rider. Samuel Sanchez coming to the front now, upping the pace a little bit. Doesn't want to let this man get any further up the hill than he possibly can. Well, this has been a legendary climb throughout the history of the Paris-Nice race. I posed the question earlier in the week, who held the records, the first top 3 riders in the shortest of the distances they time it at 9.5 kilometers. I think I got 2 or 3 correct answers. The answers were in 3rd down to 1st, 1978, Jerry Knetemann, 20 minutes and 14 seconds. Eddie Merckx, 1970, 20 minutes and 14 seconds, but he's, I think he won on that day, so he takes the 2nd spot. Raymond Poulidor holding the record, 1972, 20 minutes and 4 seconds. Samuel Sanchez, though, right, not just thinking that the pace is too low, but riding away from people, and it looks a little bit like Frank Schleck has decided he's got to go with him. Schleck starting the morning at 42 seconds down, 9th overall. Notable from their absence in this group, David Miller at 42 seconds, Sebastian Joly at 32. Those 2 missing. Jerome Pinot we saw going out the back. Sylvain Chavanel has missed the boat on this one as well. Be interesting to see how much further down they are now. Well, that work by Schleck has gone past Samuel Sanchez. He was my pick for today, to be honest. Samuel Sanchez could have done something. He's just slotted back in there. Schleck has gone on the attack, and I think it's Joaquim Rodriguez who's gone with him. Still Contador, though, out ahead. It's slowing down a weeny bit for Contador, though. Beginning to really suffer now. Can he hang on the other side? There's a fast group of descenders behind them. There's Valjevets and David Lopez Garcia being caught. So now 3 Case Japan riders in that group.
And a good situation for Rebellin that it's coming back together. and we see Rebel in definitely in, you know, major difficulty here at trying to stay in contact with the other big favourites, but doing the job and limited it very well. And as you said, with the case to Pang riders all coming back together now, well, you know, they will maybe make the descent. The stage break is to take, so possibly once again we could see, you know, Contador losing a lot of his advantage, which is around the 22-23 seconds at the moment to Rebel in.
Finishing today on the Promenade des Anglais. I was talking last night, or a couple of nights ago, last night in fact, with Sean about the 2004 Paris-Nice, if you remember, with Alexander Vinokourov, who had already won on Montferrand, I seem to remember, and then went away from the bunch on the Promenade des Anglais and held a gap of about 10 seconds, and nobody could close it down. They were trying so hard to get over to him, and he just sat there. You can't let a man like Vinokourov get a gap. No Vinokourov in this race, though. He's in Tirreno Adriatico. Riccardo Rico doing back-to-back victories there. But here, coming to the summit of Col d'Aise, it'll be interesting to see what the time is when he gets there for Contador. He still has a handful of seconds over the chasing group, and Rebellin at the moment under real pressure, but he's got other teams who wish to do things, and so it's playing into his hands at the moment. Rebellin, 35 years of age now, and has come close to this before, but been robbed of it second in, I think, 2001. You may correct me if that's wrong, but there we go. 39 victories in his career so far, Rebellin, and he's had three second places already this year. This man you're looking at, Alberto Contador, has won twice, remember. He won at Mende, and he's also won a stage in the Tour of Valencia. But Rebellin was riding in the Algarve, Sean, when your team were there. Was he looking strong down there?
Yes, he certainly was, certainly at one stage he finished, I think, in the top three in the sprint finish. It was a group of 25 riders, and Pataki actually won the sprint, and I think he was maybe second in that stage, so he's in quite good shape, you know, at that time. But I think a different level here, of course. You know, you're up against real climbers here, and this race is that much more hillier than the Algarve, for example, and, you know, some very good climbers. But, you know, doing a very good job here. Unfortunately, at the moment, there's nobody wants to ride here at the moment, and that's not a good situation, because it's growing out now to 37 seconds, and they have to somebody start riding. Some of the teams, Case de Pang, for example, they have to start taking it up, because they can win the stage here. But the question is, will they do that? Will everybody just wait for Rebellin to do the ride?
It could be the case, Sean, that on this descent that Rebellin can do the riding as much as possible and try and limit the gap, or bring the gap back down a weeny bit, and then maybe some of the other riders like Case de Pang will see an opportunity for a stage victory and then start working as they get towards the flatter part of the bottom.
Yes, well, Rebellin certainly has to start riding the minute they start going downhill. Of course, it still drags up a bit here. We see, you know, where the riders were on the climb there. It still drags on a bit, so he's probably waiting until he gets the downhill, and he knows this descent very well. As you said, he's been up that climb many times in the Paris-Nice, so he knows it very well, and here he is now. He's just starting to take it up, and he will be hoping that somebody will, you know, just take a bit of workload off him and help him on the descent here. And you know, as you said, there's teams here with number of riders. Case de Pang, for example, is a perfect situation. They should start riding and, you know, play for the stage victory, have a go for it.
45 seconds now is the gap. Rebellin on the front with Evans just behind him. Cadell starting at 35 seconds down this morning, just ahead of David Miller. Well, he's going to cement that place, because if it stays as it is, Chavanel moving up from 11th to 8th, just ahead of David Miller. Oh, look, just as we speak, out of the group comes Cadell Evans, and Bocharov is the rider who's gone with him. Or is it Schleck? Sorry, very difficult to tell. The sun coming in, streaming in through our commentary box. Just throwing a bit of light on the screen here. Samuel Sanchez not looking in such good shape today. Has tried to force the pace a little bit, but was soon brought back, and soon went right to the back as well. You know, I was chatting to some of the riders this morning at the start as Sanchez came past, and he looked very nervous indeed, as is Cadel Evans. I went up to him this morning and having a chat with him, said, how are you feeling? And he said, look, actually, I'm really nervous this morning. I don't know what's going to happen. If you don't mind, I'm not going to chat this morning. He's very amicable normally. He was certainly very amicable towards the beginning of the week, but he's very, very nervous today. And I think a lot of riders nervous today. It was going to be always one that tries to attack. 47 seconds the gap from Contador. They're not really riding him down, and they're letting Rebellin do it, aren't they, Sean?
They certainly are. And, you know, it's... that's the case a lot of the time when you have the yellow jersey who's in trouble. A lot of the time the riders try to sit on, and you know, it's a pity here that some of the other teams are not giving him a dig out, because they have also something to ride for here. But when the gap gets so big, maybe they think that it's not going to be possible to close it down, so the stage victory is gone. But always somebody will have attack, as we see one of the Escatel riders having a go here.
This is Samuel Sanchez. As I said, he wasn't so good for going up the hill, or he came right to the back. I did, however, we had said earlier what a good descender he is. Maybe he's the one guy to try and cut down that gap. Remember in the Tour de France last year, we were wondering, one of the stages, the stage he won, we were wondering whether he would, in fact, be able to hold off a marauding peloton, and he did exactly that. Very fast, in fact, pulled out on the descent. Very fast indeed. Joaquim Rodriguez right at the back. Two Predictor Lotto riders in here. Cadel Evans will be very pleased that Chris Horner has got up here. He was terribly talkative this morning. He said, I'm not going to predict anything. He said, I don't know what on earth is going to happen today. Chris Horner, a very tough guy, seems to recover very well. If Horner is, in fact, completely spent, exhausted, then you really know it. You know it's been a hard time, because Horner seems to be one of these guys who comes good in the race, and he also seems to recover very well overnight. And some riders have the ability to do that, Sean, don't they?
Yes, well, that's, you know, the advantage if you can recover very quickly, and that's what makes a very good stage race rider. If you can recover in the matter of 8 or 10 hours, well, that makes him a great stage race rider.
By himself at the head of affairs now is David Rebellin, taking over from a flying Samuel Sanchez, who's done exactly the same job as he did yesterday. He's cut that gap right down from about 40 seconds to 25 seconds now on the descent of Col d'Aise, and other riders having to come through and do some work now. Alexander Bocharov at the front. Rebellin took up the challenge from Samuel Sanchez. He's going to have to keep riding, because Valjevec is in his wheel, Pelazzotti is in his wheel. It's all down for Rebellin to do. Yes, he may get a little bit of help now and again. He may get a bit of help here and there. When the stage victory comes into view, he may get some more help, but at the moment he's still the man with all the work to do. Alberto Contador, who attacked after the Discovery Channel riders had really tried to ride everybody and succeeded off their wheel on the bottom of Col d'Aise, really put the hammer down old style as we've seen them in the last 4 or 5 years. Popovic was the last guy to peel off and almost took Bocharov out in the process, and launching Contador on the attack. Now, has he got enough in the tank? That's the thing. Rebellin is a very hard man to beat in this sort of situation, but he's definitely under pressure. Now they're all starting to get it together, Sean.
Yes, well, you know, the gap is coming down, but very, very slowly, but still it's dropped a number of seconds. And you know, the riders here up front, of course, we've lost a few on the descent, and that's because of the pace that Sanchez set on the front, really going hard, and you know, shelled out a few riders. And if the riders start to work together here now, they start pulling on the front, well, then it could be difficult for Contador to stay out there, because we see him up front there. He's really under pressure, and it's not his cup of tea here. Although it is going down, it is still, you have to really, you know, be in good shape to push it along, because it's not real steep downhill as we had yesterday on the Tannerone. So a difficult descent, and you need a lot of power on this one.
Sanchez putting a very fierce descending pace on, and chopping the best part of 20 seconds out of the lead of Alberto Contador, which shows just how good he is. And other riders could stick in the wheel, but he's suffering big style now. He'll be very popular with David Rebellin or the two Spaniards, Lopez Garcia and Luis Sanchez. because he has brought them back into potential contact with Contador. Now it'll be down to the Case to Pan riders, I'm sure, Sean, because they've got two really good time trialists in here.
Well, certainly anybody who's got a number of riders up there has got to ride, and as we see here, they're just coming back. They lost contact on the descent there because of the pace, and I suppose the risk, you can call it, being taken by Sanchez, and some of them, like Rebellin, was able to follow with a number of other riders. But it will be interesting to see now when they join up again. We see Christopher Horner coming back there with the Case to Pan riders, and I think we could see some of them starting riding, because the stage victory is possible all the time, because the gap is coming down about 22 to 25 seconds for Contador out front on his own.
Two very tough, good hilly stage race riders and single day riders here. Tadej Valjevets, and just ahead of him David Rebellin, who won that triple, of course, in 2004 in the classics. Really announced his arrival back on the scene big style when he'd signed with Gerolstein. He'd had a very lean period in his career, having been touted as the next great classics rider from Italy. His form dipped very badly in the beginning of the 2000s, at the beginning of the millennium. It's kicking up again, Sean, isn't it?
Yes, and 5 to go for Contador. Still, you know, quite a bit of road to be covered before we get to the finish here on the Promenade d'Anglaise, and you know, we see the group coming back together now. He's getting bigger, so if there's somebody or some team who rides here, put a rider or two on the front who really give it 100%, well, that gap could, you know, melt down very quickly.
21 seconds is the gap between Contador and Rebellin, who's trying to hunt him down and preserve that yellow jersey that he's worn this morning at the start. Contador in the best young riders jersey, the white jersey, and remember, there are bonuses at the end, 10 seconds to be had, so they've got to really hunt down. In fact, if Luis Sanchez comes past, there's one of the other reasons that Sanchez will be wanting to work hard. Schleck having a quick word with Rebellin is that there are 10, 6 and 3 seconds in bonuses at the finish. On paper this year so far, Alberto Contador, the more successful rider than David Rebellin, has raced less races, had 2 stage victories though, one here in the Paris-Nice, one in I think the Tour of, I'm not quite sure actually, it's one of the Spanish races he was in, not Catalunya, one of them anyway. Whereas there are 3 second places so far for David Rebellin, one in the Tour of the Algarve. Sean was witness to in a bunch sprint, second in the Grand Prix Chiasso, which is a very tough race indeed, and second to this man here, Alberto Contador and Mende, just a few days ago. Sanchez has got back on the tail of these guys. I think he's beginning to really suffer. I was going to say, when we walked past him today, much slimmer than he appears. Television makes you look a bit more chunky, but he's very slim in the calf, slim in the thigh as well. So much power packed into small legs, and this man here is tiny as well, isn't he, Sean? Alberto Contador.
Certainly is, and when you see them, you know, in real, yeah, you just, you know, you say to yourself how skinny, how light they are, and TV gives a little bit more, that he looks a bit more bulky, and certainly like the ones Contador looks so lean there today at the start. You'd wonder where he gets his strength from, because he doesn't look like he has the power, but certainly on the climbs he's able to, you know, put it in. As we see, the gap is coming down, 17 seconds dropping all the time. So time bonuses, if they really put in a good finish here with the chasing group of Rebellin, we could see this gap coming down really close, and it's going to be, it looks like at the moment it could be really a touch and go for who's going to win this Paris-Nice.
Oh, it's going to be really tight. The bonuses are 10, 6, 4 and 3 at the finish today, and 17 seconds is the gap that Contador has at the moment. So regardless, I mean, you don't need the time bonuses at the moment. Remember, he lies 6 seconds down on David Rebellin. If he was to get the 10 seconds time bonus, then Rebellin has to work even harder. 1.5 kilometers to go. They're on the Promenade des Anglais. No wind today. Big crowds turning out here at the finish line. Joaquim Rodriguez has gone out of this little bunch, trying to jump the gap, and who's gone with him? It's Rebellin. Rebellin is going with him. He knows he has to do everything, and nobody else is responding at the moment. Rebellin has to do this. He hasn't really got a choice. Sean, can he do it now?
It looks very, very much like it's a really difficult one. Rodriguez is just ahead of Rebellin here, and you know, he's not able to get back into the wheel. So with the time modifications, it looks like Contador can take it here, because Rebellin is suffering big time at the moment.
1 kilometre to go, less than 1 kilometre to go for Alberto Contador, a double victor so far this year. One in the Spanish stage race and one at Mende a few days ago, and Rebellin is crumbling. He's crumbling. He's coming under the 1 kilometre boundary. I think he's lost the Paris-Nice race. It's going to be the second time in his career that this has happened to him. Rebellin, the man who has been under pressure for the last 3 days. He's not had a team around him who's been able to help. As they were saying this morning, Udo Bolz was saying to us this morning, that now they are paying the price for bringing a young team here. They wanted to bring young riders on, and they are now beginning to suffer from that. They've just fallen by the race side. 2004 it was, remember, Jörg Jakscher who took the victory. And Rebellin not able to respond. Alberto Contador is going to take a third victory this season, and the biggest result of his career. He knows he's done it. He's attacked 2 days on the trot, and this time he's made it stick. Best young rider and the best rider overall. 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5, 6, that's the lead gone. And David Rebellin, in the end, just didn't have the strength. And now we're looking to see if Estepania can get any more time back at all. Luis Sanchez not going any further up, coming over the line in the end. What a victory. Alberto Contador, they rode everybody off the wheel. Sean did Discovery Channel, and Contador this time made it stick.
Yes, he certainly did, and well, the strongest team certainly on paper at the start of this Nice, and they proved it all the way through the race. And you know, the last 2 days, 3 days, certainly they've really put Rebellin under pressure. And yesterday I think we see the cracks within Rebellin himself, and that's where I think the Discovery Channel got the confidence, and Contador.
This is the best of the rest. Giron Pignot coming home. Sébastien Joly, Andy Schleck by the look of it there, coming in. But Alberto Contador, well, they came here with the express desire to win. They had by far the strongest team on paper, it appeared, with Tom Danielson, Levi Leipheimer, Alberto Contador, who has been talked up tremendously. He was bought in the off-season by Johan Brunel. And he was riding, of course, with the Liberty Seguros team, and decided not to go to Astana but to go to Discovery Channel instead. Riders now piling over the line in dribs and drabs. It's been a very, very hard 126 kilometers today. Doesn't sound like an awful lot, but with 3 first category climbs in it today. It's been a hard graft, and the work that Discovery put in was tremendous. 19 seconds back to David Lopez Garcia. It was Joaquim Rodriguez at 19. 22 seconds to Sanchez, who takes a single second bonus. Rebellin coming in 22 seconds down, losing this yellow jersey and the Paris-Nice race by 16 seconds. It's a cruel sport, Sean.
Certainly is, and you know, when you get to get so close, but you get so far from winning the race. But you know, Rebellin, you know, major difficulties. Not alone with his team, but himself yesterday. As I said, you know, he was really suffering yesterday, and today, once again, when the attacks were going on cold days, he just wasn't able to respond, and you know, that tells you that he was under major difficulty.
Here then is the general classification. Remember, the 10 seconds bonus Contador gets on top of everything else. Takes it to 26 seconds. 16 seconds was the true margin from Luis Sanchez at 42. Tadej Valjevec remains in fourth at 49. Then Franco Pelazzotti in fifth at 57. Lopez Garcia at a minute. Cadel Evans at a minute and 1. The really big losers today, Jérôme Pineau, David Miller and Sylvain Chavanel. Well, turned professional in 2003, Alberto Contador, and won a tour on the stage of Poland that year. And ever since then, he's been a man who's promised so much. He's won stages in the Tour of Romandy, in the Tour Down Under, in the Tour de Suisse. A clutch of seconds all over the place. And 2 firsts already before this victory, and was coming into really good shape. First in a stage of the Tour of Valencia, I now remember it was, and of course won on Mende, the Mont Jalabert at Mende, up by the aerodrome just a few days ago, showing how good he was in the climb.
Sí, buenas tardes. El equipo ha sido increíble, ¿no? Lo que ha hecho desde el kilómetro cero, se han puesto a hacer un ritmo durísimo. Ayer vimos que Rebellín en el último puerto
saying it's incredible, and I could see with a few kilometers to go I had to put the pressure on Rebellín.
Las ganas que tenía de trabajar. Estábamos en el hotel y estábamos deseosos de que empezara la etapa para ponernos a tope.
And I want to thank all the team for all the work that they've done.
Vraiment, ce qui a été fait aujourd'hui était fantastique. Il nous tardait de commencer l'étape pour montrer ce qu'on était capable de faire. Alberto, a pesar de todo, en el último kilómetro, los 2 últimos kilómetros, David Rebellín intentó todo y casi te alcanza.
In the last 2 kilometers, you're just saying Rebellín going on the attack and struggled, and eventually I said, by the time I got to the last kilometer, I can't describe my feelings. I knew I had it by then.
Rematando sobre todo el gran trabajo de mi equipo.
À 2 kilomètres de l'arrivée, j'ai
I just have to thank the really hard riding of my team.
Je savais que j'avais gagné. J'arrive pas à exprimer tout le bonheur que je ressens grâce à cette victoire. ¿Es su más bonita victoria de profesional, Alberto?
Sí, sin duda, ¿no? Es mi primera vuelta a Pro Tour. He ganado etapas en otras vueltas, pero París-Niza yo creo que es muy dura,
stage victories, knocking on the door for tours, and this is my most important victory today. Paris-Nice is an important tour.
Me rend très heureux. Gracias, Alberto.
Muchas gracias a vosotros.
I always find the Spaniards very hard to understand because they talk at 1,000,000 miles an hour, especially when they're excited, Sean.
Yes, well, he's certainly excited, and you know, he said that certainly the greatest victory, and it is. And you know, the way he's went about taking it with the team, of course. You know, normally at Paris-Nice we get to this last stage in Col d'Aix the last couple of years that the general classement is pretty much decided. But yesterday, as we see, a magnificent final, and today once again we knew this morning starting out it was all going to be to play for, and Contador was the one who was expected to do everything, and you know, to take the victory. That was on everybody's lips, and he certainly went about with his team. First of all, you know, they did a magnificent job, and unfortunately for Rebellín, just that little bit too short of being able to match Contador in, you know, fine shape.
Some big name losers though today, who having hung on. Sylvain Chavanel launching some attacks today, or being in the breakaway today, and not being able to go with these last attacks of the day, the last group. Samuel Sanchez was struggling, only managed to stay there in the end and maintains his position. Thomas Lukvist, who went out the back door straight away this morning, had no chance at all. He started 40 this morning at 51 seconds and slipped right back. David Miller, 8th this morning at 42 seconds. No sign of him all day, Sean, and really the pace on the end just too high for him, and there's a big disappointment for Miller.
Well, yes, it's a little bit of a disappointment on the final day, because I think he's had a very good race, and he's, you know, stuck in very well in Mende. Like, he finished quite well yesterday. Mondeleu, a very difficult stage, and it raced right from the gun yesterday. So he, you know, had a good tour today. A little bit disappointed losing his place in the final day. It's always a big disappointment, but I think for the future he's showed, you know, Miller, that he can hang in there, and I think there's room for improvement. We must remember he's not long back in competition. He only came back last year at the Tour of France. So I think there's a lot more to come from Miller. I think much more potential to be seen from him.
Two-stage victories already then for Discovery Channel. You saw Levi Leipheimer, the Californian, congratulating his teammate Alberto Contador. He the victor in California not a month ago. And now his teammate Alberto Contador taking victory here. They really had a strong team on paper. Could have gone either way. The team to mark in this Paris-Nice race. Well, he's got the longs on already. It's pretty warm here. And a lot warmer down here than in the rest of Europe. Actually, he wouldn't mind if it was snowing and hailing at the moment, Alberto Contador. Our Discovery on the way back up, Sean, after a poor transition year last year.
Well, I think, yes, they certainly showed in this race, but we must remember they have maybe, you know, a very good team here on paper, as we said during the week. You know, all the big names, or most of the big names, are here. So, you know, it's normal that we're seeing these performances. Although this time of year, maybe some of them would not be in shape, but I definitely think they're, you know, they're all quite close to it. Where with Gerolsteiner, as you both said, he came out with a young team, maybe not expecting to be up there in the general classement, and unfortunately, like, they've paid the price, losing the race on the final day.
He said to us, didn't he, this morning, it's a game of poker, and we'll have to try and play it to see how many other teams are going to help us. To be fair, a fair amount of work coming in from the other teams around David Rebellin, but does that show more about the class of Contador's victory than the inability of other teams to want to work with David Rebellin?
Well, you know, it's the situation in the final stage. For example, yesterday we see there was a number of teams were riding there when that breakaway went away with Chavanel and Leipheimer, Danielson, all of those, and there was quite a few teams took up the chase, but they all had somebody up there, so they all had something to defend. Today, the situation on that final climb Col d'Ace, and they got to the summit, there was a few riders who missed out, but, you know, they had nothing to gain except for the Case de Pang riders. I was surprised they didn't, you know, take up the chase a bit early, because we see two of them coming in just 2 seconds ahead of Rebellin. If they had, you know, maybe took up the chase on the descent of Col d'Ace, they might have been able to play for the stage victory, and that's very important. But we know yesterday there was a bit of confusion. I don't know if there was an agreement broken between the Case de Pang riders and Contador, so maybe they didn't want to start chasing him down again today.
Well, it's been another wonderful race, Paris-Nice. My first Paris-Nice. My thanks to David Dovell for letting me come on it, despite the cold. Congratulations to Alberto Contador. Commiserations to David Rebellin. We'll see him back in the classics. We're covering them all live here on Eurosport. Don't go anywhere if you've got Eurosport 2. Tirreno Adriatico coming up. That man, Riccardo Rico, doing the business there ahead of Vinokurov at the moment. Well, we hope you've enjoyed the Paris-Nice race. Remember, you'll next hear from me, cold, hopefully having cleared up, at the World Track Championships from Mallorca in 2 weeks' time. And we'll be bringing you all the action there live. And then we move on to the classic season. Roubaix, Flanders, Amstel Gold, Flèche-Wallonne, and Liège-Bastogne-Liège. From myself and Sean, thanks for being with us all week. We'll speak to you again soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.